You're listening to The Observing Eye. Pirate radio for the mind. Coming at you fresh from the computer hell cabin.
Hello, you beautiful lot. It's Friday, the 22nd of March, 2024, and you're listening to episode 57 of The Observing Eye, coming at you live from the computer hell cabin. Every week, we get psychological, philosophical, and all manner of introspective. I'm David, and this week we are beginning our short-run series on deep dives into philosophy, as philosophy forms an underpinning of most of the stuff that we talk about in this series, this podcast. I thought I'm going to go into some detail on what the various philosophies are, where they come from, what they mean, and how you can take some of those abstract ideas and apply them to your life at large. Now, as it gets mentioned every week, we are going to be beginning with a crash course in Stoicism. So Stoicism, that philosophy that has endured the test of time, originating in ancient Greece and later popularized in Rome, is experiencing a bit of a resurgence in the current era. But what exactly is Stoicism? Why has it remained relevant across the centuries, influencing countless individuals seeking wisdom and resilience? Today, we're going to uncover the roots of Stoicism. We're going to explore its fundamental beliefs and the profound practical wisdom that it offers for navigating life's challenges. Stoicism teaches us about the value of understanding what is within our control and what isn't, encouraging us to face adversity with courage, moderation, and emotional intelligence. From those bustling marketplaces of ancient Athens and the tall power corridors of Rome to the higher-paced modern world that we inhabit today, the teachings of the Stoic philosophers like Epictetus, Marcus Aurelius, and Seneca provide timeless insights into living a life of virtue, contentment, and purpose. But Stoicism isn't just a relic of the past. It is very much alive and kicking today, influencing leaders, thinkers, and everyday individuals seeking to lead a more meaningful and centered life. In this episode, we are going to shine the spotlight on modern Stoics who have brought this ancient wisdom into the 21st century, showing us how these very old principles can be applied to our contemporary challenges. So whether you are well acquainted with Stoicism already, or if you're coming across it for the first time, where have you been? Why have you not listened to my previous episodes? Of course, listen to what you like. You can join me today as we explore its history, its principles, and why it's still relevant today. So at its core, Stoicism is much more than just a philosophy. We could argue that it's actually a way of life. Founded in the 3rd century BC by Zeno of Citium, Stoicism quickly grew to become one of the most influential schools of philosophy in the Hellenistic world and later in Roman society. But what exactly is Stoicism? And what does it teach us about navigating the complexities of life? Stoicism is built on the foundation of understanding what is within our control and what is not. The Stoics teach us that while we may not have control over the external events that happen to us, we do have control over how we respond to them. This fundamental distinction is at the heart of Stoic philosophy and offers a very powerful framework for living with just a general sense of contentment and an ability to be resilient to changes and adversity. Now, central to Stoicism are 4 cardinal virtues: wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance. Wisdom involves knowing what is good what is evil, and what is neither. Courage is not just about bravery in the face of danger, but also the courage to face adversity with integrity. Justice encompasses our duties to our fellow human beings, emphasizing fairness and kindness. And temperance, or self-control, guides us to desire and act on what is right, in moderation. One of the most compelling aspects of Stoicism is its practicality. Stoic practices focus on exercises in mindfulness, reflection, and self-examination. For example, the practice of premeditatio malorum, which translates to the premeditation of evils, encourages Stoics to visualize potential challenges or hardships as a way of preparing themselves mentally and emotionally, thereby diminishing the impact of those adversities when or if they occur. Moreover, Stoicism teaches the importance of living according to nature. This doesn't mean retreating into the woods and just hugging trees and hiding under bushes, but actually understanding and aligning ourselves with the natural order of things, and then recognizing our place within the larger context of that order. It's about striving to fulfill our roles as rational beings and as part of the human community with dignity, effort, and respect for the common good. At its essence, Stoicism offers a blueprint for living a fulfilled and meaningful life. It doesn't shy away from the realities of pain, loss, or disappointment. Instead, it equips us with the tools to face those universal human experiences with grace and equanimity, emphasizing personal responsibility, ethical conduct, and the pursuit of inner peace. As we delve deeper into the tenets and teachings of Stoicism, we'll uncover how this ancient philosophy remains remarkably relevant today, offering timeless wisdom for dealing with stress, adversity, and the unending quest for happiness. To truly grasp the essence of Stoicism and appreciate its enduring relevance, we must journey back to its origins. Stoicism is a testament to the human quest for resilience and wisdom, born in the bustling heart of the ancient world. Our story begins in the early 3rd century BC, in the Hellenistic period following the death of Alexander the Great. This was a time of tremendous political upheaval and social change, which naturally led to an existential questioning and a search for some inner contentment amidst all of this external chaos. The founder of Stoicism, Zeno of Citium, was a merchant from Cyprus. After a shipwreck left him stranded in Athens with very little to his name, Zeno found solace and purpose not in the material wealth, but in the pursuit of knowledge. He turned to philosophy, drawing inspiration from Socratic teachings, amongst others. Zeno began teaching in the Stoa Poikile, or painted porch. I hope I haven't butchered the pronunciation of that. Please let me know if I have. The painted porch, an open market in Athens. It's from the Stoa that Stoicism gets its name. Unlike the secluded academics of the time, the Stoa Poikile was a public space, reflecting Stoicism's accessibility and practical application to everyday life. From these humble beginnings, Stoicism quickly grew into one of the most influential philosophical movements of the ancient world. It attracted followers from diverse backgrounds, each seeking to understand how to live a virtuous, content life in accordance with nature. As Stoicism evolved, it found its way to Rome, where it became the philosophy of emperors and slaves alike. It offered a framework for facing life's adversities with grace, fostering a community of thinkers dedicated to the pursuit of wisdom, justice, courage, and temperance. The origins of Stoicism, rooted in the teachings of Zeno and flourishing in the ancient markets and halls of Athens and Rome, remind us that the search for meaning, peace, and resilience is as old as humanity itself. The enduring legacy of Stoicism, from its ancient beginnings to its modern resurgence, speaks to its universal applicability and timeless wisdom. So that's where Stoicism comes from. But what are the core fundamental beliefs of a Stoic philosopher? Well, firstly, Stoics believe that virtue is the highest good. At the core of Stoic philosophy is the belief that living a virtuous life in accordance with reason and nature is the highest good. Stoics identify 4 cardinal virtues, which we've talked about previously: wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance. For Stoics, these virtues are the foundations of a life well lived, leading to true happiness and contentment. Then we have acceptance of what is outside our control. A fundamental Stoic principle is the distinction between what is within our control and what is not. Stoics teach us that our perceptions, decisions, and actions are within our control, while everything else, including our reputation, our wealth, our health, and the very universe at large, lies far outside of it. Embracing this distinction leads to incredible personal freedom, because we have to learn to accept that the entire natural course of events outside of ourselves are not in our control. And this allows us to focus our efforts only on the things that we can actually influence, which is fundamentally our thoughts, our actions, and our behavior. Stoicism is very much intertwined with nature, and it believes that living in harmony with nature, both the natural world and our own nature as rational beings, is essential for a virtuous and contented life. This involves understanding the laws of the universe and accepting our place within it, as we strive to fulfill our roles as social and rational creatures to the best of our ability. Now, obviously, by the laws of the universe, we don't mean understanding every single aspect of physics, but just that common sense understanding of the universe at large that we all have. There is a way that the universe works. There is a way that nature works, and we come from and of nature. You know, there's a phrase that Alan Watts says, which is that we aren't born into this world, we are born out of it. And that is incredibly true. You know, I feel like we very much believe ourselves with this individualistic mindset to be little bubbles of ego and self, which is true to an extent, but we very often forget that we are a component of this much bigger construct, and that we come out of that construct, and that it gave birth to us as who we are. And that's important for us to remember. And that's what Stoicism means when it talks about understanding our relationship with nature and the context within which we exist in nature, put it that way. They also have this wonderful idea called the concept of logos. And logos is a lovely, lovely, lovely word, which is basically can be understood as the rational structure that organizes the cosmos. It's like a divine and guiding principle that Stoics believe is present in every individual. It's like a soul or a sort of divine spirit. So living in accordance with the logos means making decisions based on reason and virtue and aligning ourselves again with that rational order of the universe, the order of nature, because it exists within us. It's a part of us. So these core beliefs of Stoicism, they provide a framework, not just for facing life's challenges, but for really making something within them. You know, we aren't just surviving existence. We are really becoming it. It's all part of the human experience. And by cultivating virtue, by practicing acceptance, by attempting to live in harmony with nature, by making reasoned and rational choices, Stoicism offers this like eternal guide to a life of depth and meaning and satisfaction. So let's go back a little bit to some of the key Stoic philosophers from ancient Rome. And then once we've done that, we're going to move on to looking at some modern Stoic philosophers, because there's a difference. There's a difference in the way that the message is delivered, which I think is entirely expected with a 3,000-year difference. The message is going to be different. It's going to meet the zeitgeist of the time. So let's go back first. Well, let's look at some of these old Stoic philosophers from ancient Rome. And if you've listened to this podcast before, you will have heard me mention all of these people at some point before. So let's begin. Let's begin with the great Marcus Aurelius. So Marcus, perhaps there is no figure who embodies the Stoic ideal more than the great Marcus Aurelius, Roman emperor and philosopher. His work, Meditations, although it wasn't really penned as like a philosophical treatise, but it was actually his personal journal. Meditations offers an incredible glimpse into the mind of a leader who is striving to live according to Stoic principles, whilst also trying to handle the complexity of running the Roman Empire. So his reflections deeply emphasize the power of reason, the acceptance of fate, and the pursuit of virtue above all else. And that's something else that we don't do much these days. We don't accept fate. Back in my day, we accepted fate. We believed in the divine nine. No, the acceptance of fate. Fate is an important thing. You know, it doesn't matter how much effort we put into something. Sometimes fate just intervenes and it doesn't happen. And I think it's important for us to be able to accept that there is also luck. Things happen. The universe throws shit at us that we could neither expect nor foresee. And it's important to recognize that within us and to allow ourselves to accept that fate, accept that it is outside of our control. And all we can do is control how we respond to it. So Marcus Aurelius, his famous reminder that you have no... Let me start that again. His famous reminder that you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Now, that reminder hugely resonates with me, and I imagine if you're listening to this and you followed it for a while, it's something that's going to resonate with you as well. Just to recognize that you have power over yourself and to let go of the outside events. And that just allows you to really funnel your vision down, your energy down into focusing on the stuff that you can control, which is you, fundamentally. Next, we have Seneca the Younger. Now, I mentioned him a lot as well. But for those of you who haven't heard before, Seneca was a statesman, he was a playwright, and he was a philosopher. And he was well known for navigating the treacherous waters of Roman politics, whilst adhering very well to Stoic philosophy. He wrote a lot of essays and he wrote a lot of letters. And in these, he explored the complexity of human emotion, which was no small feat. He looked at the importance of reason. He looked at the virtues of patience and kindness. His works, including Letters from a Stoic and On the Shortness of Life, provide very practical advice on how to handle loss, wealth, anger, and the remarkable brevity of life. Seneca's incredibly eloquent discourse on the human condition and the importance of ethical living just absolutely sings out the fundamental ideas of Stoic philosophy. And it's something that if you're interested in Stoicism, I would recommend having a look into at some point. They are all fantastically well written pieces on the human experience, essentially. And then where would we be talking about Stoicism if I didn't talk about the great Epictetus? The poor Epictetus was born a slave. He was born into slavery. And his life is an absolute testament to the Stoic idea of the power of mind over circumstance. So after he gained his freedom, he dedicated his life to teaching Stoicism. And he emphasized the distinction between what is within our control and what is not. Are you getting a fundamental theme coming through here? His discourses and the Enchiridion, or manual, laid out a pathway to freedom through inner discipline and the mastery of one's desires. Epictetus taught that external events are beyond our control, but we can control our perceptions and reactions. A principle encapsulated in his assertion, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. So those three philosophers from ancient Rome, Marcus Aurelius, Seneca the Younger, and Epictetus, each in their own way, they contributed hugely to the mosaic of Stoic thought, offering insights into the art of living that still remain profoundly relevant even today. Their lives and their works remind us that Stoicism is not academic. It is essentially a practical guide to living well, which was forged in the crucible of the human experience during the Roman Empire, which I think was an experience in itself. So let's move forwards a little bit. Let's skip forwards to modern Stoicism. And I'm going to talk about some of the relevant people that you can have a look for, that you can listen out for and get some wisdom from, because they're all over social media. Well, some of them are anyway. And you can actually go and find them and listen to them every day, which is fabulous. And we'll get on to that shortly. But yeah, so modern Stoicism and its resurgence in the 21st century, it's taken on a slightly different ethos. It's very much alive in online communities and workshops. And if you watch anything around entrepreneurship or leadership, you will no doubt have come across some of these Stoic ideas. And again, it's a huge testament to the practicality of Stoicism, that we can apply these ideas that were thought up 3,000 years ago, and they still work. They still work. And they still work because the human experience hasn't changed. You know, we're not wearing togas and killing barbarians and dealing with cholera quite so much, but the experience is there. We're still bumbling through life, trying to be the best thing that we can with the very limited tools that we have at our disposal. The limited tools being ourselves. So let's start then. Notable figures in the modern Stoic movement. So first one I'm going to talk about is Massimo Pigliucci, who is a philosopher and author who has done his damnedest to work to bridge the gap between the ancient Stoic teachings and contemporary challenges. So through his writings and talks, Pigliucci explores Stoicism as a way of life that can provide answers to questions about ethics and happiness and the meaning of life in today's world. So he is one to have a look out for. Very much worth exploring if you're interested more in some modern Stoic ideas. Another one is Ryan Holiday, who I imagine you will have probably heard of if you're interested in listening to this sort of stuff anyway. He's a very prominent voice in modern Stoicism and has brought Stoicism to a very broad audience through some fantastic books such as The Obstacle is the Way and The Daily Stoic. So Holiday interprets Stoic principles for very personal and professional development ideas, and he very much emphasizes the relevance of Stoicism in overcoming difficulties and achieving success. So I've read The Obstacle is the Way. It's a really, really good book, and I would highly recommend you go and grab a copy. If anything, that should be the first book of Stoicism that you buy if you haven't read anything about Stoicism. Don't go back and start reading the Seneca's letters or Marcus's meditations. Look at how casual I talk about Marcus. Oh, Marcus, go and read Marcus's meditations. I'm just sitting in the corner supping upon a wine. Marcus Aurelius's meditations. I don't know the guy. I'm not that old, really. I'm old enough, nearly. But yeah, read The Obstacle is the Way. I digress heavily. The Obstacle is the Way. Great book by Ryan Holiday. If you like Stoicism, you're interested in it, read that book first. It breaks it down beautifully and in very, very applicable ways to our lives today. So yeah, give that a look. Now, it's also important to recognize that Stoicism does extend very far beyond the ideas of personal growth, and it's had a significant impact, and still does, on the field of things like psychotherapy. So the development of cognitive behavioral therapy, for example, owes very, very much of its existence to Stoic philosophy. CBT's founder, Albert Ellis, and later Donald Robertson have highlighted the parallels between Stoic techniques for managing thoughts and emotions and the strategies used in CBT to treat things like anxiety and depression. The wonderful thing about embracing Stoicism now is that not only does it kind of give us a link back to the past, which I think is important to, remember our ancestors and where we come from and the culture of that, because it does have an influence. It has an influence on how we see ourselves, and it's important to remember history, I feel. But we also by embracing it, we can see how adaptable it is to our current experience in the modern age. And I genuinely feel that I say this from experience because I love Stoicism, and it's given me a lot. It's influenced my thinking and my ability to self-examine and question my behaviors and look at my reactions and pull myself up for shit reactions that could have been done a lot better. And it's given me a lot of agency by taking that perception that the only thing I can control is myself. And for me, it's been a huge compass in navigating just a general uncertainty of existence, but navigating it with a grounding in this idea of trying to be virtuous and trying to be emotionally resilient and trying to give some purpose to life. Because we fundamentally are the only people that can give our lives purpose. We have to create meaning. It's not like a video game where you go and play Skyrim and there's a waypoint that you have to walk to. Go and finish these bandits and bring me back this goat's goat's drinking horn, and I'll pay you 40 septims. It's not how, we all know that's not how it works. We have to, life is an open sandbox, and we've got to make the rules ourselves. If anything, life is more like Kenshi than Skyrim, but that's a very obscure reference I don't expect many of you to pick up on. So yes, Stoicism. God, I'm really going all over the place today. Stoicism provides us tools, basically, not just for enduring, but for really properly existing in the human experience. And it reminds us that life is about leading a good one, and it's about leading a good one in the present, right now. As you know, if you've listened before, you will probably be aware that I like to try and give you some applications for things you can try based on the stuff that I've talked about in the episode. So today it's practical applications of Stoicism. Now, hopefully you will have inferred some things based on what I've talked about already, but I'm going to break it down again. I'm going to repackage it and give it back to you. If I can stop slapping the microphone stand with my the invisible gesticulating that you can't see. Invisible gesticulation. Right. God damn it. I think I've had too much coffee or something. Right. I'm just looking at my notes because I have show notes that I like to read. Because otherwise this would just be utter chaos, even more chaos than it is already. Okay, so let's break it down. I've got five things. 5 things I'm gonna suggest to you as practical applications. And if you only listen to this bit of the podcast, then this is probably the most important bit, the things that you can actually use. Okay, so I'm gonna give it to you as a list. Number 1, embracing what we can control. It's very serious, wasn't it? Number 1, Number 1, shut up, Wesley. Embracing what we can control. One of the most empowering one of the most empowering aspects of Stoicism is its focus on distinguishing between what is within our control and what is not. I'm going to really just keep saying this because it's really important. Focus on what you can control, which is yourself, not what you cannot. When you are faced with a challenge, ask yourself, is this within my control? If it is not, then let go of it. If you cannot control it, let it go and focus on your response, which is always within your control. If you have no control over it, let it go. Okay? Viewing obstacles as opportunities, that's number 2. The Stoic practice of turning obstacles into opportunities is profoundly relevant. Whether it's a personal setback, just some sort of challenge at work, or just something deeply unpleasant and emotional that you're having to deal with. Stoicism teaches us to find the inherent value and potential for growth in every situation. So next time that you're faced with a roadblock, try and reframe it. What can it teach me? And how can I grow from this experience? These are questions that I ask myself when I come across these things. When the universe throws shit in my face and everything seems a bit bleak and I'm not sure what to do, I have to pause. And I think that's important, to just pause for a moment and step back and observe it and ask myself, what can this teach me and how can I grow? What can I learn from this experience? How can I grow from this experience? Because all experiences are opportunities to grow as a person. We just have to observe ourselves and our responses and notice the emotions that we're feeling around this stuff. What's coming up and why are those emotions coming up? Those are some questions. Number 3 is practicing mindfulness and presence. So Stoicism and I keep slapping the microphone stand. Stoicism and mindfulness share a very common ground because they both emphasize that we should try to live in the present moment. So by adopting a Stoic approach to mindfulness, we can sort of work on this awareness of our thoughts and our actions and our reactions. And by being aware, having that self-awareness of what we're thinking or what thoughts are coming up, what our impulsive actions are and what our reactions are to things, it enables us to kind of put a bit of a breakpoint in and just start to change our perspective so that we can do our best to respond with reason and virtue rather than like an emotional tantrum. We want to try and respond to things with kindness rather than just impulsively reacting to the world at large. Now, obviously, this is going to do wonderful things for things like our relationships and anything to do with work and just our overall well-being, because we're not going to be feeling so emotionally charged about stuff. You know, emotions are important, and there's nothing in Stoicism that says you have to deny emotion at all. The aim of this is not to become like Mr. Spock and you know, have no emotion. Although he lied, he suppressed his emotions. Look where that got him. They shot him onto a moon and he came back to life and the planet bonded itself to him in some weird way. So don't do that. You don't want planets bonding to you. Don't suppress your emotions. It's dangerous. Just sort of experience the emotion, but recognize that you don't have to become the emotion. You can experience it without becoming it. And you have to acknowledge and honor the emotion because it's who you are. It's a part of your human experience. You have to appreciate that. But by not becoming the emotion, it takes the edge off things, and it gives us a much more sense of calm and kind of collectedness in the face of the trials and tribulations that life tends to throw at us. Number 4, cultivating gratitude. I think this one's come up a fair few times. So the Stoic idea of negative visualization, where we contemplate the loss of what we value, sounds a bit odd, but kind of paradoxically, it leads us to a deeper appreciation for what is currently in our lives. So if we were to imagine something or someone were no longer present, they weren't there, how would we feel about that? It's taking that moment to not take things for granted, basically. You know, I imagined I cancelled my Netflix and I was deeply distraught about it. No, I actually did cancel it because I'm really not enjoying it at the moment, but I digress again. So, yeah, reflect on impermanence, basically. Reflect on the impermanence of all things, the impermanence of possessions, of jobs, of, without sounding morbid, people you care about, and without sounding even more morbid, yourself. I think this kind of goes back to that memento mori idea, you know, be of the moment and remember that you're going to die, and not in a morbid way, but we are. And we need to look at that not from a sense of sadness and depression, but as a fuel for us to live, for us to do, to go out and actually start fulfilling passions and trying to become some of those aspirations that we've always had, you know? So that's what that is. It's all about gratitude to recognize what is important, and to strive towards that with more vigor, basically. And number five, developing resilience. So at its core, Stoicism is a philosophy of resilience. It gives us mental tools to endure life's adversities, but not just endure them, to kind of see them as obstacles and grow from them so that the next time we have adversities, we're better equipped to deal with the next one. And it just becomes this iterative cycle of getting better and better at dealing with adversity, because we become more understanding and knowledgeable and self-aware of how we respond and how we react. And we grow as individuals by doing that. If you came across some of the episodes earlier in the series this year, I talked about my mantra for this year, which is get comfortable being uncomfortable. And that's exactly it. Developing resilience. I'm putting myself in spaces that are outside of my comfort zone on purpose so that I can see those adversities and those obstacles and push myself through them. And it's a bit hairy at times, but I feel like I'm getting a lot out of it. And it's definitely worth doing. We do not grow within our comfort zone, basically. We only grow when we are challenged, when we have to really start thinking about things. We've got to test our mettle, and that's how we strengthen our character, and that's how we manage ourselves more effectively. So, those 5 things, practical applications of Stoicism. They're real, they're actionable, and they can lead to significant improvements in things like mental health, relationships, and just overall quality of life. By integrating Stoic principles into our daily routines like this, we will eventually be able to navigate the modern world with a certain amount of grace, a certain amount of wisdom, and a little more resilience than what we came in with. So as we draw this little exploration of Stoicism to a close, I'm going to take a moment to reflect on what we've covered today. We have delved into the origins of Stoicism. We've discovered its humble beginnings from Zeno of Citium and its evolution into a powerful philosophical force. We've explored the core beliefs that underpin the philosophy, from the pursuit of virtue as the highest goal, to the critical distinction between what is within our control and what is not. We've walked alongside old Marcus, old Seneca, and old Epictetus. We've drawn wisdom from their words and their experiences. And we've seen how Stoicism is not just some relic from the past, gathering dust on a bookshelf, but it's a living, breathing guide for today, with practical applications that can help us lead more fulfilling lives. The beauty of Stoicism, I find, lies in both its simplicity and its depth. It teaches us to focus on our inner selves, to cultivate our character, and to face life's challenges with courage and composure, in a world that very often feels out of control. Stoicism reminds us of the power we possess over our perceptions, our decisions, and our reactions. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is all I have to say on the subject of Stoicism. As always, I want to thank my 4 subscribers for joining me today. No, all of you beautiful people, thank you so much for choosing to spend some time listening to me today. As always, I hope that you found some inspiration, that there's been something insightful in this mad noise of words, and that there's been something you can take away that's been going to help you on your path to understanding Stoicism and ultimately understanding yourself a little bit better. I always like to try and remind people that we are all works in progress, and that is the whole purpose of the human experience. The eternal work in progress. The point is that you are growing as part of that experience. If today's episode has sparked something within you, if there's something you want to share about Stoicism that you've come to understand, or if there's anything that you want to give feedback on or ask questions about, I would love to hear from you. You can share your stories, your questions, and all manner of plethora, but please no dick pics, via Substack at theobservingeye.com. or on social media. You can find us on YouTube at youtube.com/@theobservingeye, and on TikTok. You can find us printed on the side of a tiny Tic Tac in very small writing. You can find us on TikTok and Instagram, Jesus Christ, with the hurdle, it's happened. I've lost my mind, with the handle at the Observing Eye as well. See, this is a paragraph that I've pre-written so that I don't make mistakes, and I've just gone to hurdling Tic Tac with tiny writing. Like, this is absurd. Anyway, we're parting ways now, but as we do, I would encourage you to have a think about some of the things that we've discussed today. If there's one takeaway that you get from this rambling, it is to remember, or try to keep in your mind, we only have power over the things that we control, and the only thing that we can control is ourself. Take care, everybody. Much love, and I'll catch you soon.
You've been listening to The Observing Eye. Thanks for spending some time with me today. I hope it's been useful. And if you're interested in any more of my writing or work around psychology, philosophy, and general day-to-day living, please go and take a look at my Substack, which is theobservingeye.com. And that's I as in the letter, not I as in the gelatinous organ through which you see. Take care, everybody. Much love, and I'll catch you soon.